Welcome to the second episode of Finding Alpha in the Bittensor ecosystem. Last episode, I talked about social media channels like Telegram, like Discord, like X, that you can find some really good intel in the ecosystem. And now I'm going to tell you about a few websites that I really like to use in order to find out more information about updates in Bittensor. My name is Jeremy, aka School Crypto, and I'm bringing you yet another Bittensor video. So there are a few websites that are my go-to resources in finding intel within the Bittensor blockchain, within the ecosystem, any updates that have happened, anything about subnets. And the first website that I really go to on a daily basis is taostats.com. Taostats.com, in my opinion, is the number one blockchain explorer for the Bittensor ecosystem. There are a few other ones like Tao.app, like TaoMarket.com. There are a few other ones that are really good, but for me, I think that TaoStats.com has the best culmination of statistics, metrics, resources that really give you a good indication on what exactly is happening on chain. So you can tell when there are subnets that are getting chain buys from the Bittensor blockchain with their emissions. You can tell what the registration costs are for certain subnets for mining. You can tell what the miner burn is for that given day. There's just so many different, metrics that are in that, website that really gives you the intel that you need in order to understand what's going on within the blockchain, and like I said, those on-chain metrics. So definitely check out taostats.com. It's a really good resource. There's a man by the name of Mog who is like a Bittensor OG, to say the least. Has a couple subnets, including Hippias, Mog Machine, and has been doing this for a really long time. Has just done such a great job with that website. So kudos to him and his team for keeping that up to date. They have an API key that you can use, that you can throw into Python algorithm script, put it in your Hermes agent or OpenClaw, and you can kind of dig deeper into what's been going on chain. Like I did it the other day with trying to figure out how much the top miners were making on a daily, weekly, and monthly basis. So I use the TaoStats API key for that, and I don't have the pro plan, so it actually ended up doing it. It took a while because it was kind of timing out a little bit, but that was just a great resource for me. And the second website that I like to talk about is GitHub, and most of you probably know what GitHub is. If you don't, it's a website that shows the commits within these blockchains and the type of code that they're putting together on a daily, weekly, monthly basis. And this is one of the big fundamental tells that really allows you to understand whether a project is putting in the work and doing the development updates and making their product better, their subnet better. And there really is no other tell other than looking at the GitHub. That's probably going to tell everything to you. And there was someone that I spoke with, it was like a few months ago, and he pretty much just said, you only have to trust the code. Like that's the only thing that you can look at. Everything else is just talk, right? The code actually gives you an idea of exactly where the subnet is, how advanced it is, and the potential that it has. So if you don't have great coding knowledge or acumen within doing like Python or any of these other coding languages, again, just use AI, copy the code, copy the GitHub page, and just try to learn more about it that way. That's that's a way to kind of understand, exactly what's going on, and maybe have a little bit of a better idea of what's being built within that respective subnet. So that is really good resource to just like do research on the subnets that you may potentially want to get your hands on investment wise. So and then the third website that I really think is interesting is called bluetao.com, and that's brought to you by the one, the only James Altucher, who has taodaily.com. He has Tau Synergies, which is a public investment group that strictly invests in Bittensor and subnets. And I have just kind of gotten into this website. I haven't used it too often, but it's really neat. He actually subsidizes this particular website with Shoots Inference. And he said the other day on a podcast that he, just used up $100 worth, and, it had been working fine just for everybody. So like he's able to, help the ecosystem learn more about these projects that are building on top of Bittensor. And what I mean by that is, there are subnets that have certain services that aren't really accessible. And like the whole idea of BlueTau is really to allow people to use the products on Bittensor. So for example, he has like an AI detector interface that is powered by, Bitmind, in terms of like the images. So you can put an image in there, and then you utilize Bitmind's image detector, and you can see whether it's AI or not. And then speaking of AI or not, that is another Bittensor subnet number 32, that also is like an AI detector, except for text, So you can put text in there, and you can utilize that interface and find out, whether it was most likely AI or if it was human written. So that is super neat. And then there's like a coding section that you can click on, and then it gives you options on how to code and how to mine for certain subnets. And I just thought that was like very intriguing, that it kind of gives you a whole setup, and ultimately it allows you to get started, setting up, your terminal, and, putting together, a bunch of different commands to really, start to actually mine a subnet, which is amazing. And it has certain levels like easy, medium, hard, extremely hard, advanced. So it gives you more of an indication of whether you are up to actually mining that subnet, So that is really cool. So like he just has a bunch of different cool features on that website that allows you to really get to utilize, some of these subnet services, which a lot of people haven't really done, So like it's really, a great job on his part for putting that together and allowing Bittensor to be more accessible to the public, with like a very user-friendly interface that it's like similar to, like other AI models, right? Where you just have that search bar, and then you can ask anything, and it just makes it very, practical to use. So that is a really cool site to check out. And the fourth website that I think is really interesting is taoflute.com, and that's brought to you by Tau Templar, which is, in my opinion, one of the best Bittensor YouTubers in the game. And he has like pretty much all the metrics put into one. It's like a one page interface that has all the subnets, and it has like, I think it's like, maybe a few dozen categories, and it just breaks down like Discord activity, the miner burn. It talks about there's like a mechanism called conviction lock, I believe, and that basically is a subnet locking its alpha tokens, so they're less likely to rug. And I think that was created based on what had happened with subnet 3 Templar, So like he has that, so like that gives you like a better idea of like how committed like a subnet is and how likely they are to like rug. And I believe, and I may be wrong on this, but I believe Quasar had like a very didn't have like anything locked up, or there were a few subnets that I believe didn't have much locked up, and then they ended up like selling off or whatever. So like it actually is a pretty interesting indicator, and he just has like really cool advanced indicators like that he obviously put in a lot of time and effort, and it really gives you a really good idea on what exactly is going on, and like, so like, he's got like a free version, and then he's got a paid version that gives you like all the indicators. Like I haven't paid for anything or whatever, but just a really, really cool website to check out, and just like, see these like advanced like indicators and metrics that like you can't find anywhere else. So like kudos to him, did a great job with that website. And another website is just bittensor.com itself, right? So like learning about the project and its inception, and like delving into the white paper. Like, yes, you may need to have a PhD to like understand it, because it's like very technical, very complicated, kind of very out there, like in a good way. But you really get to understand, what the mission is and what the philosophy is, and like why the project was built. And so like that is crucial in just like wrapping your finger around exactly what's going on within Bittensor. So like, and then just like the documentation and all that type of stuff, like very interesting, like very important to learn, very important to just kind of delve into. So like that's really important. Just another one off the top of my head, subnetalpha.ai. Gives like really nice like explanations on like what each subnet does, and like kind of breaks everything down like pretty cleanly. So like that's one of those things where like, you're just like looking at subnets, and like you have no idea what like subnet 111 does, and then you just go to that website and it gives you like a few paragraphs on like what it does and what they're trying to do, and all that type of stuff. So like that's definitely like a really, really good resource to have. So I would say that those are like my top resources that I personally use on a daily, weekly basis. And it's definitely destinations that allow you to understand this ecosystem a lot more. It allows you to stay up to date, a lot more consistently. And it just kind of keeps you up to speed with all the developments, and understanding the ecosystem more. And again, there's like 128 projects that's built on top of Bittensor. It's like a lot to keep track of. So the more websites that you have to utilize, and the more social media channels that you can check in on, and you can get updates and notifications on, the better. So yeah, I would say that those are kind of like the 6 websites that you can really learn about Bittensor and get alpha and get intel, and allow yourself to to really be educated and up to speed with everything that's going on in the ecosystem. I'm sure that I missed some websites, so like you tell me, like what websites do you use to keep track of like the ecosystem? Like where do you get your alpha? What destination do you go to that gives you information that other places don't? Definitely let me know down in the comments below. Appreciate your time as always. Look forward to seeing you guys soon. Give me a like, a subscribe if you got anything out of this video. I really appreciate it, and look forward to talking to you guys soon. Take care.